Hi, this is our first listening comprehension lesson. It's going to focus on the main idea and how we can find it through listening. These are the points we'll cover. First, what's listening comprehension? What kind of task is it? And what are the difficulties? Then, finding the main idea, what does it imply? And then we'll have a look at some helpful strategies to end up with a practice exercise. What is listening comprehension? Listening comprehension can be defined as the ability to recall and understand information which is presented orally. It has different components. The first one is the actual physical hearing of language, what we hear actually. The second component of this task is the purpose of the message intended by the speaker. The third one is the actualization of the message in the listener's mind. How do we receive the message? How do we actualize it? And finally, the lexical phrasing. How do we phrase our understanding of the message actually heard? What are these difficulties? The first one is that native speakers are hard to understand. The second one is using basically your ears rather than your eyes. As a listener, you don't have any visual stimulus that would help you understand. The third one is that speech patterns are different from academic writing. Speakers usually use weak forms, contractions, and phonetic links. What's the best way to overcome these difficulties? It's summarized in a very simple tip. Listen, understand, and transcribe what you listen to. That's the best practice you can ever do. Now, how can you listen and understand? You need to go through different strategies. First of all, you need to listen for context. To listen for context, you need to activate your background knowledge. Of what? You need to activate your background knowledge of the topic, of the situation or context, of the type of text you're listening to, and of the language. This background knowledge activates a set of expectations that would help you understand better and interpret what is heard, and therefore anticipate sometimes what will come next. In order to listen for context and to help yourself understand, you also need to adjust yourself to the situation. No listening situation is exactly the same as another. What we mean by listening situation, the time, the speaker, the message. If you listen to a native speaker, it's different from listening to a non-native speaker. If you listen to a British speaker, it's going to be different from listening to an American speaker. Accents are different. Lots of things are different. To listen for context means that you need to think in context. Think of the context of the situation that's explained in the conversation. This will help you understand better. When you listen for a main idea, you need to focus on key points, the main idea, and the speaker's message. To get the key points, do not attempt to memorize minute details. Key points are much more important. To get the speaker's message, you need to focus on generalizations, not facts. Usually, these generalizations show the message of the speaker. And to get the main idea, don't concentrate exclusively on individual supporting facts. You'd rather focus on the main idea. So the key points, the speaker's message, the main idea, these are our focal points, because any other individual facts are there just to explain, to illustrate, to support the main idea. We need to summarize, anticipate using our background knowledge, and formulate questions based on the speaker's message to guide ourselves to the main idea. Second step, we need to arrange the material in our mind or in our notes as it is being presented by the speaker. What point is the speaker trying to make? What main ideas should I remember? And how does this information relate to what I already know? These are the three basic components for arranging the material in your mind. Reorganizing the material, you need to learn. Added to seeking relationships between the new material and what you already know about it or about the topic. Both require concentrated thinking. Now, how do we listen for the main idea? How do we get the main idea? Where do we find it? The main idea of a passage should be identified in a recording as a first task while taking notes. Main idea of a lecture is usually given in the introductory part. So if you are seeking the main idea, you need to focus on that introductory part. You need to focus on the first part of the listening. The other details would be given in the rest of the lecture. And therefore, at the first stage, you don't need to focus a lot on them. The main idea will give you understanding of what the conversation or the lecture is about. That's the general understanding, the overall understanding. It's usually found at the beginning of the listening passage, while the details are dispersed throughout the lecture. Now, how to figure out the main idea? You need to ask yourself this question. What is being said about the person, the thing, the idea, the topic in general? We can actually ignore some of the details, if not all of the details, as they are not necessary to our understanding of the general message that's being put across by the speaker. We should be able to recognize the subject or the topic of the text using our background knowledge here. And we shouldn't waste time, obviously, on unnecessary, specific information. Let's have some practice. Here is an example. Listen to this announcement and try to find the main idea. The jago from the Modernist stable comes at the right time when interest in the easy rider or chopper type of motorcycle is on the rise. Powered by a 175cc single-cylinder power plant, the jago looks big. Anyone who has not told about its engine capacity will think that the jago has a 500cc engine at the very least. It is fitted with a 5-speed gearbox that doesn't show any apparent lack of power. Its price of 7,200 Malaysian ringgit is a steal. In order to find the main idea, we need to study these questions and answer them, paying attention to some points. First of all, you need to think, what kind of announcement is this? It actually seems to be an advertisement. Then, ask yourself, what's the subject of this advertisement? Jago is a motorcycle. Now, we need to listen in a more general way to get a rough idea of what the speaker is saying. Remember that the speaker is giving a lot of details, a lot of specific information, like the name of the motorcycle, the type of the gearbox, the engine capacity, the price, and so on. Do we really need all these specific facts? We don't. To find the main idea, it's enough to focus on the generalizations. They're enough to tell us that Jago is a motorcycle. Something else to bear in mind while listening, and that will be very helpful in leading us to the main idea, is to focus on the points in discourse. Often, speakers stress important information of points in their discourse. Some of the techniques used by speakers to stress important points in their discourses are rephrasing. The speaker says something and then rephrases it, says it in a different way. Summarizing. At some points in a lecture or in any kind of listening, sometimes you find the speaker summing up the details or the facts that he has mentioned. Repetition is another technique used by speakers. Sometimes it's not a matter of rephrasing, it's just repeating things. And if you are able to recognize when a speaker does this rephrasing, this repetition, this summarizing, it will help you listen for the important points and will enable you to get the main idea of the text, of the lecture, or of any listening. Let's go in detail to these techniques to understand them better. The first one is repetition, which is a very helpful key to identifying main ideas. It is how many times a word or a phrase is being repeated. You need to focus on the fact that something is repeated several times, and therefore it suggests importance. It's much easier to identify the lecturer's main ideas once you know through repetition that these words or phrases are important. The speaker keeps on repeating something. This announces the importance of what's coming. Here is an example for repetition. The highlighted words, the white highlighted words here, show some repetitions. Try to focus on them in order to be able to get the main idea. A new hearing device uses a magnet to hold the detachable sound processing portion in place. Like other aids, it converts sound into vibrations. But it is unique in that it can transmit the vibrations directly to the magnet and then to the inner ear. This produces a clearer sound. The new device will not help all hearing impaired people, only those with a hearing loss caused by infection or some other problem in the middle ear. It will probably help no more than 20% of all people with hearing problems. Those people have persistent ear infections, however, should find relief and restored hearing with the new device. What idea does this paragraph consistently repeat? A new hearing device. Notice, this word has been repeated more than once, at least 3 times in this listening. What's the point about this idea? A new hearing device has been repeated, but also notice that some hearing impaired people, these words have also been repeated more than once. So it's obviously, if you focus on repetition in this listening, you'll easily get the main idea. And there is the main idea. A new hearing device is now available for some hearing impaired people. What do we also need in order to find the main idea? We need to learn how the ideas are presented in the listening passage. Some of the main relations between the ideas include cause and effect, compare and contrast, and steps in a process. We need to learn to listen for signal words that indicate different parts of the passage, like the introduction, like major steps sometimes, like announcing some examples, like announcing the conclusion. And we also need to summarize in writing what we have heard using the notes. Thus, you will learn to find the purpose of and the main idea of the listening. So, learn to find how the ideas are presented. Remember what we said at the beginning. Organize the material in your mind as it is presented by the speaker. We need to pick the signal words that announce things coming, and we need to summarize ideas as we understand them in our notes. Here are some examples of some signal words. The point I want to make or to cover here is, sometimes the speaker helps you so much by saying, the main point is, and there is the main idea. Sometimes he says, the important thing here is, or what I'm trying to show is. He may also say, what I'm going to talk about today is, or the purpose of my remarks is. Time for practice now. Listen and figure out the main idea. Try to use the strategies mentioned. Try to focus on key points, speaker's message and purpose, and deny any specific fact or detail that's unnecessary.
A beauty contest with a difference opened in the United Arab Emirates on April the 2nd. The Abu Dhabi Camel Festival, which will be held until April the 10th, will see 10,000 camels trying to look their most beautiful. There is almost $10 million on offer in prize money, as well as 100 cars for the lucky winners. The event is the biggest camel festival in the Arabian Gulf region. Camel owners will bring their animals from Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Bahrain, Oman and Kuwait to compete for the prizes. The camels are put into different categories depending on their age and type. All camels must be pedigree, from a purebred origin. They must also be free from any contagious diseases or physical defects. A group of expert camel judges will choose the best animals in each of the categories. The identities of the judges are a closely guarded secret to make sure the competition is fair. The festival is part of efforts by Abu Dhabi's Culture and Heritage Authority to keep the traditions of the country alive. It also provides a financial boost for the city. Festival organizer Sheikh Betty said, "The economic impact of the festival has already been felt, as local businesses are thriving thanks to the participants from the Gulf countries and camel owners." The festival has led to an increase in camel prices. Sheikh Betty, however, believes that camel owners will not sell their ships of the desert until after the competitions. He thinks people will want to keep their hopes of winning high. All camels at the festival will receive free medical care, plus food and water supply. Abu Dhabi specializes in pedigree camels and produced the world's first ever test tube camel. The city also pioneered the use of robot camel riders, which have now replaced child jockeys.
And here is the transcript. You can just read it to make sure of your answer. The main idea is a camel festival will be held in Abu Dhabi. Actually, the speaker has helped you because he introduced the topic and the main idea from the introductory part. So you can see here a beauty contest with a difference opened in the United Arab Emirates on April the 2nd. This is the first introductory part that carries unnecessary details you don't need to focus on. Then comes the statement of the main idea. The Abu Dhabi Camel Festival, which will be held until April the 10th, will see 10,000 camels trying to look their most beautiful. Now, from the very beginning, the main idea is mentioned, is stated, but you just need to sort out the unnecessary details, put them aside, and then focus on the generalization that's mentioned in this sentence, which is only about the fact that is, or the event that is the festival. And we don't need the date, we don't need any unnecessary details at this stage. That's it for today's lesson. Thank you for your attention, and I hope that you use these strategies as much as possible. Remember what we said at the beginning, that the best practice to overcome this task difficulties is to listen, understand, and transcribe your listening. Now, choose any kind of listening, practice the strategies, ask yourself the questions that we mentioned through the presentation, and then you'll find it so easy to pick the main idea. Good luck. See you in the next lesson.